is now to share its responsibility and authority with the chairman of the audit committee. I believe that requires further looking into in the next dispensation. And finally, I want to talk about international financial reporting standards. The world is now a global village. The international financial reporting standards become effective in Nigeria for all public companies on the 1st of January 2012. In fact, work should start now because you are expected to use IFRS for 2011, even though not signed by the auditors, as the opening figures and comparative figures for 2012. So a lot of work has to be done by companies. Those companies who are responsible or who are using the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, we know what I'm talking about. It involves a lot of work, just like IFRS will involve a lot of work. In 2013, SMEs will be brought into the scope, and in 2014, all limited liability companies will be brought into the scope of IFRS. Therefore, it is very important for boards of directors to start thinking of the enormous work and the cost of having to comply. Finally, I congratulate SEC again for this code. It's flexible, it's dynamic, and it's user-friendly. Thank you.
Dr. Olusegun Osunkaya, the OON, the chairman, Nestle Nigeria PLC, we thank you very much for signing that code and for those very thoughtful presentations you've made. Now let's listen to Dr. Olusola Dada, who is the head of Korea Investment and the chairman of the Corporate Governance Committee of the Vision 2020. I'm sure majority of those who are in audience are issuing houses, brokerage firms, so you are here, this part of the auditorium, to represent them. So how will you, I'm sorry with your respect, gentlemen, you will speak for yourself, Dr. Dada, but there are concerns there that the market operators should be the key transmission agency for this code to public companies. You brokerage firms bring companies to the market, you advise, you get companies prepared to come to the market. So you are a very important middleman, as it were, between the SEC and the code and the market and the investors. We would like to hear from you for about 5 minutes, Dr. Olusola Dada.
Thank you very much. The role of the capital market operators who are here today, which I'm one, is to disseminate information to our clients, both corporate and individuals. You realize one fact that the companies that are the quoted companies that are supposed to operate to go by the code, we deal with them. The capital market operators deal with them, taking them to the market, even in the day-to-day preparation of their reports and the rules that they should submit certain information to the regulators. We do warn them that they should do that in time. And that is the reason why we feel that the implementation of the code should be seen as a dynamic one, in which both the members of the public, the companies that are supposed to operate this code, they need to be properly informed. And honestly speaking, I am happy that SEC is using this medium to bring all of us together to let us have a roundtable discussion on the code before we start talking to outsiders. Somebody said that as from today on, there will be a lot of discussions on the code, and I'm happy that it's starting fresh. Let me now come on the issue of why the code when we have existing one. Because in 2003, we have already disseminated them to our clients, corporate clients, and we now see that another one is coming up. Why is that one coming up? That's the questions we are like to be asked. And there are issues of urgent concern, even to the shareholder association mentioned by Chief Ozuke here, where such issues, if I may quickly go through them, which we as a capital market operator needs to be well informed, is the issue of conflict of interest. You know that today in the Nigerian business environment, there are a lot of activities going on that led themselves into conflict of interest. If Chief Ogeya, as the chairman of Nestle, is getting his son or wife to be a supplier to Nestle, definitely that is a conflict of interest. And many directors, they don't even know what they are doing. They feel that it's right. In fact, out of ethical standard, you find out that directors may do certain things that may pass for not offending the conflict of interest. But when you examine inside you ethically, you know that it is not good for you to do it. So these are the things we capital market operators, we need to educate our people about. The second issue is the issue of remuneration. What has really killed many companies in different parts of the world has been this remuneration, especially the bonuses that we have had. The latest one was the Royal Bank of Scotland, and so many organizations, even outside Nigeria. And we will come back to Nigeria here. We know many companies that they will package certain things for themselves in order to benefit irresponsibly from the organization they serve. The 5 failed banks, we were informed of what they have done, the management, in order to take care of themselves, and also the non-executive directors. These are areas we need to educate our people. The next area is the regulator's role, and that is where SEC, you have come in now. It's one thing to have this code disseminated, even when we say that it's not mandatory. I'm of the view, and my colleagues here will agree with me, that in submitting the annual report to SEC, the essence of compliance with the code should be basis of accepting these reports, and it's very, very important. And also, I'm happy that is happening now, whereby in the publication of annual report, you are supposed to provide a page on the essence of compliance with the code of corporate governance code. And I'm not sure whether all the companies are doing that now, but because of the exclusive nature of the banking industry, it is mandatory for all the banks in Nigeria to do it. But what of other quoted companies? I'm not sure they are really complying with these things, because I get many annual reports because I invest in many companies. Some will reflect it, some will not reflect it. From now on, I think it should be mandatory for SEC to ensure that in the annual report to be published to be circulated and published, that provision compliance with the annual of the corporate governance code should be there.
Dr. Olushola, may I quickly intervene here very quickly, because this is a live transmission on channels, television, and other media platforms across the world, so we need to move on very quickly. We need to take some interventions from the floor, but I'll just ask the Director General of the SEC this question, and she has about 1 or 2 minutes to answer that. Members of the panel have suggested a number of issues and think we need to get your clear answer on this. First, should there be a checklist for companies in their annual financial reports to say we've complied with numbers 1 to 20? But more importantly, as a regulator, would you go with the way of Dr. Christopher Kolade on moral suasion, or would you want to go with the way Dr. Olusegun Osunkaye have put it, that you should give at least 2 or 3 warning signals, like going, gone, before you use the hammer? Which way would you go?
I think it's important to look at it from what we have suggested is the way this code will be implemented starting the 1st of April. What we have said, and it's very similar to what happens for the banks, is that you will state the extent of compliance in the annual report. The reason we've said this is that it's not just sufficient that we as a regulator enforce this, but we want shareholders, both individual investors and institutional investors, to also enforce this. What our expectation is that on the basis of the level of compliance that is reported, that shareholders will make decisions about that particular company. What we would expect is that the better run companies, that you would have more people wanting to focus on investing in those companies. But it also gives us the basis as the Securities and Exchange Commission to enforce issues with respect to that. Because if, for example, you present a level of compliance that is inaccurate, and through our own due diligence, we find out that what you have submitted in your annual report is incorrect, there are various laws that give us the opportunity to take very serious action. So I think it takes account of what Dr. Christopher Kolade says, what Chief Osunkaye says, as well as focusing on how we can implement it. What we would like is that companies implement it upfront. As I've said, our aspiration is that companies live by the highest good corporate governance standards. And in fact, as A.B. Mahmood has mentioned, this should be the minimum standard. Companies should use it as a competitive tool, such that shareholders, investors would want to invest in those companies because they respect the highest standards of corporate governance.
Dr. Osunkaye said it's a customer-friendly and try to brand it, isn't it? Dr. Osunkaye, isn't it? The way you look at it, it's customer-friendly and user-friendly. So it shouldn't be seen as punitive.
It still has teeth. It gives us a basis to take enforcement action.
Yeah, the teeth is just behind the curtain, but the front end of it is user-friendly. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being part of this panel. We need to get to the audience to have a few questions and comments. They've seated for hours, and we'll need to hear from them as we go on with this event. Could we please have the microphones come to the front row? And I think I will quickly recognize the Vice Chairman of Icon Stockbrokers. Please, we would like to hear from you.
Thank you very much. Once again, I would like to congratulate SEC, for this move. But I'd like to address one issue that was raised by Chief Osunkaye about giving information, and it was mentioned also by the Chevron Pencom. I think one of the basic problems we have here is getting information. There are certain group of people who really go for information. You have financial analysts who write equity reports, and these equity reports, they circulate to various companies. Those people should really have access to information. And I do not think you will be giving out information that is not maybe available to others. Rather, they are making that very information available to others by their equity reports that are circulated to a number of people. What we find in this market is that the analysts, you write letters to CFOs of companies that you are an analyst and you are preparing equity reports. They don't respond. They don't even want to grant you audience. So I think these are some of the things that should really be considered, because these financial analysts, the information they are preparing, to circulate to shareholders, institutional investors, the PFAs, and the various other bodies. So I think we should consider making this access available to financial analysts who are writing equity reports.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nwanze, for your intervention. I'd like to recognize very quickly some intervention from the interim head of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Mr. Emmanuel Ikazubo, please.
Thank you very much. Well, I just thought I should mention quickly that it is true that this document has to be voluntary, but because of the perception about our country out there in the world, we need to make it clear to the global community that we are having a good corporate governance that is obligatory for all companies that are listed in our Nigerian Stock Exchange. Because the perception out there is such that you need to work harder than even your competitors in other stock exchanges to prove to the world that you have very high standards. I was waiting to hear what are the sanctions for a company that is listed on the exchange that is not, abiding by this corporate governance. I think we need to have that. Thank you very much.
I'm very sure this is a very important one, the Director General of the SEC, because I'm aware that the Nigerian Stock Exchange as an institution, or any securities exchange for that matter, should have some set of corporate governance rules for companies to be listed on its own exchange. And